Yes, I have dropped some of my XRP for other assets. Now, there are different reasons for this, but XRP is still my single largest holding, and it will remain so unless some of the assets actually do at 20, 30, 40x. But the assets which I have moved to is like this market shows that they may probably do at 20, 30, 40x when this dynamics plays out. Look at the market right now. Bitcoin dominance is dropping. At the same time, you see Bitcoin coming back bouncing. So that's like, okay, when Bitcoin is bouncing, still Bitcoin dominance is dropping. Why? Because the altcoins are gaining. Now that's not that small, because if you are looking at this, you are looking at the macro scenario where you see, yes, dollar had this inverse head and shoulder pattern, you broke higher, you had a bull flag, then you broke higher. Right now you have another bull flag. So if this happens to break to the upside, that definitely means dollar based assets are gonna have trouble. Say for example, you look at stock market, this is Tesla. You're looking at this particular pattern where you definitely understand, okay, there is a market dynamics playing out. You do understand that. Right now you are at the resistance. Last 3 times when you got to that point, you dropped. So if that is to drop, then from here, how much are you looking to the downside? 40%. Now that's Tesla. Now you look at the Apple. You're like, okay, you had this particular pattern which was a rising wedge, which is considered bearish, but you broke to the upside, you again came back down, you are now inside this. Fine. So your support is close. So even if you fall, you do have some supports at this range. But if you break this one, then you're going all the way to the downside, because what you can do is kind of you look at just what's happening here. This is your resistance, right? This is your resistance. So you're not actually going to break that. Right now you have a lower high compared to this one, but a higher high compared to this one. So if you are looking at the macro perspective, you are like, okay, you do have a level of support here for Apple. And I'm like, okay, if you are able to bounce from here, that changed the scenario for Apple. Now, at the same time, you do have to look at gold too, right? That kind of gives us a perspective of what is happening in the market. Because even though it's going to be super bullish for long term, if the dollar is getting strength, gaining more strength, that can be trouble for the safe haven assets. But it's going to be still a hedge against the inflation, because right now you have all sorts of stuff happening around you. You're going to be impacted one way or the other with a lot of different stuff happening all around the globe. Right now, we are in that globalized era where, you get really impacted. Because say, for example, you look at Ukraine and Russia, maybe you're from the US, you're from the Canada, you're from that territory, and you're looking at, okay, that's so far. So, that distance, it makes things look small. Now, when it happens next door, you may feel, okay, wow, that's bad. But when that's happening there, you're like, it looks small, right? Same. When you look things from a long distance, you get a big picture. But if you move so far, you don't have that clarity. And that's what's happening in the market right now. Dollar-based assets are going to have this. Say, if that asset is strong, like what we are watching here in the crypto market, and then dollar is going up, and you are trading crypto in your currency, that means you are going to get more. Meaning the price is going to appreciate in your currency. Now, yes, there are some assets which I moved to, right? Yes, this market is a big market. We do follow all of this. So I sold a portion of my XRP. For what? Was it a big percentage? A huge shift, 50-50? No, it wasn't. I'm going to give you the detail. Like, why I actually thought, like, I'm going to do this. And, when I actually did that for some other assets, I informed my Patreon, and I was really surprised to see I chose 4-5 assets and then some node projects and moved into that one. And in like 30 minutes, 1 hour, I'm watching these projects fly. 30 percentage, 15, 20 percentage a day. I'm like, okay, that was a right decision. Why? Because as soon as I moved, I covered my spread. I'm already 10, 15 percentage in profit in all those positions. And passive cash flow is working for me by those nodes. So that's a huge win-win territory, because it's not like you keep fine, you're dropping XRP because its fundamental has changed. No, for me, it's a different reason. I'm here in Korea for this tax year, and I won't have any tax for crypto. It's zero tax for crypto here. So if I'm most likely, I'd be in a different country next year. So the next tax year, I would be in a different location where I'm going to be taxed heavily, right? So I want to make sure I take the bag out here so that I'm not paying any tax for another government when I've already been here for a long time. I've invested here. Last 4 years, I've been repeatedly investing from Korea. So, I would like to take the profit out. So even if the SEC case is going to bleed XRP holders with time, not the fundamentals of the price, but time, it's going to hurt us in ROI in other assets. So if you think SEC may actually push you after September, this run for XRP can be delayed. It's better to have liquidity in other projects, a little bit of them. Even if it's 1% for you moving into another asset which does 10x, you got 10%. If that does 100x, you got 100% of your XRP portfolio aside. So planning and reward management with the proper risk management gives you that ability. So let's actually see that. Welcome to the Scientific Investor family, where we discuss crypto and science behind investing regularly. So yes, many still say we are XRP maximalist channel, but we are not. We do invest in a lot of different assets, but we do understand the fundamentals of XRP. That's why we are heavy on XRP. Right now, this is just one of that asset which I've moved in. And this is one of the reasons why I moved in to that particular asset. Now, this is the thought process which I share in the Patreon on a regular basis, right? Because, this is a market with a ton of assets, with a lot of opportunities. You see a lot of opportunity. Oh, okay. One of these, I just posted opportunity in the Patreon today morning, and I'm observing they are flying. So, yeah. So as you look at all this, you do understand there are a lot of opportunities in this market. As you maneuver through that, you are looking for a lot of different opportunities in the market, and you are like, okay, if I am able to look at that before the breakout, like say this one, I was actually saying, okay, look at this. This is going to have a breakout, and if you do, you're going to go to the upside. So now if you are looking at that, okay, you went, you broke out, you retested, you bounced. So that's a good one, right? Then you look at this particular pattern. Then it's like, okay, we followed this in Zcash, ETC, even BTC, even Ether, and you broke higher. So in that scenario, I'm like, okay, if that happens, these should be your targets based on your time horizon. Now look at that. We hit target 1, we came close to target 2, but came back and closed just below our target 1. So the level of resistance and how you think where the price is going to be resisted is a key and advantage when you're taking the profits, right? Then you look at this one, that's Audius. So I'm like, okay, the pattern shows this, RSI and the indicators suggest that, okay, this is going to break out, and then boom, you go higher, you get volume because people do understand this is going to break higher. Now another one, now Aave, I'm like, okay, this shows we are going to break higher, RSI kind of supports that, and here you are, you broke higher. So looking at breakouts is really, really great, but we look at similar patterns for XRP, we kind of get even more probability for that, but then it drops instead of breaking to the upside. That's why I'm saying, like, okay, there's a ton of manipulation here. Let it be the supply, let it be the people who are trying to go against this. It can be, now it just feels like conspiracy, but if all of these stuff happening against SEC and Ripple, that's what's happening there, and you see a lot of tie-up from Ether with SEC, you're like, okay, why won't they actually manipulate the market in a way that, most of the XRP holders are kicked out? because you go look at the projects here compared to the volume. Say XRP is here, you have below a billion, and you look at Ether, that's like $17 billion, 24 hours trading volume. That's huge. So they do have a huge market cap compared to what and where we are, 10 times of where we are. So they are going to manipulate you till that point. But if you do recognize the opportunities, you're like, okay, fine. Say you are someone who want to buy the assets near the supports, right? So that whenever it bounces, you are in that region. Because say, for example, this particular chart, which I posted back in Feb, it looks like, okay, this is going down, 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 down. And I'm like, this is the major support area if you want to buy. And then, you get that as just a wick. You go back up. So that was a great support area to buy. And if you're following that right now, you had this breakout. You went up. You had flag pattern, you're breaking higher, you're moving up. So if you follow the structure, you kind of get this ability. And, I'm not just talking about dollar right now. If you look back, like, last year, September, this chart was posted for my members saying, look at this. MACD is going to cross to the upside. And if that happens, the trend line is going to be broken. RSI was a close to that breakout at that point. And if you break higher, you're going to go to the resistance. So you're going to break this one. Short-term rally is going to be expected. And then right now, you actually have a dollar which is moving higher. Then you look at recent chart which I posted, Feb. So I'm like, okay, we bounced and we are in a flag pattern which is most likely going to break to the upside. So right now you go look at that dollar-based stuff and you're like, okay, that's working kind of okay. It's going up. Dollar went close to that 100 point. That is like, historically, whenever this happens, you do understand, okay, dollar is going to be in a bubble territory. That can still happen, right? Dollar can still become into a bubble territory and then burst. We have seen this over and over again for a long period of time. If you go on a daily chart of dollar and then look at this for the macro scenario, you are like, okay, fine. That means we've been dropping from a long time. Now we go on to a monthly chart of dollar and you observe this pattern. You're like, okay, I understand that. Dollar was taken out of the gold standard and you went high because there's a lot of economic activity happening, blah blah blah, but now you're observing the trend is lower. But at the same point, you do have to consider, say, this is the same stuff which I say in crypto too. This is important for every one of us. You look at this particular territory, you go up, you come back down like this. But right now, that's not the market dynamics which you have, right? You are staying here. So your market impulse is in this direction. You made a higher high, higher low pattern. And on a monthly, you're making a reaccumulation pattern. So for you, in dollar, you had the accumulation here. I'm not saying dollar is going to be a safe haven, but a lot of people do think that. A lot of debt around the globe is denominated in dollar. So whenever dollar drops, these people are like, okay, let me pay my bills. And they pay it and the dollar demand surges, right? So the price go back up. So if you notice that stuff, the same dynamics happen when the price go up too. Because, say if I'm a country who have a ton of debt denominated in dollar and dollar is skyrocketing, I'm like, I don't want to pay huge next month. I'll pay now at this price, which again create the demand and dollar goes up. So if you actually understand those stuff and the current geopolitical scenario, you are like, okay, I do have a chance to make a ton of money here in crypto. And this is the opportunity which you are looking for. I'm not talking about the asset. I'm not considering just one asset. I'm thinking about that process, right? You look at your risk, you look at your reward, and then you look at what type of asset it is. If that asset is one type where you are like, okay, there is risk, but I do see utility. I do see people going for marketing. I do see volume coming in. So whether I like it or not, people are coming in and buying and accumulating it near the support. That's what's huge there. You're coming looking at this at the support, you see a lot of volume came in. So people believe that it is a good buy at this particular zone. Then you came back to that side again and you're like, okay, there's a lot of buying activities happening. Look at the MACD, it's about to cross. That's a weekly chart. And when you get that cross, you know what happens, right? So now your downside for first is like 34%. Your upside is 400% for this pattern, just to test this resistance. And if you are a bull for this asset, you know this is a flag. So you are going to break to the upside and your measured move will be 670%. So you put that after the breakout, and from the current level, you get 37x in VRA. So that's huge. Even if you say you miss the top, exact top, you're able to get 70-80% of that run, you're still close to $1, which is huge, which is heavy. Say if you have 250,000 units of VRA or a million VRA or 10 million, depending upon your portfolio, put that $1 mark there and say how your portfolio will look. That's just thinking, but we don't know how much time it's going to take to reach there. That's the choice. So if you have time on your side, and then you're like, okay, maybe this bull run, the wave 2, is going to deliver that, you are entering into that territory because you actually understand the market is breaking higher. So the altcoin market, say if you go on a short-term chart, let's actually look at the 4-hour chart. Here you are looking for a breakout. You are nearing that level of resistance. If you are breaking this one, then again you are going to get more volume into the market because people like to buy into the breakouts. And that's one of the main reasons why we do all these breakout calls in our Telegram and our Patreon, so that you guys actually understand this is an opportunity which we are looking at, and you see these breakouts before they happen. So you are prepared, you enter, boom, the price goes up, you make profit, right? So if you really want to look at these and opportunities, okay, that's again, pumping, I'm happy. So if you really want to look at those kind of opportunities in your portfolio, you can look at the Patreon. The link is given in the description. And this is the start of the month. So, you get maximum value for the next days in this month. And you understand whether to stay or not. Because if you see a lot of people staying back and then getting value and building their portfolio, you understand they do receive value. And we try to deliver a ton of value for you so that you actually understand what to buy, when to sell, on what basis you're making all these decisions. That's one of the reasons why I drop these kind of chart with a lot of explanations, right? So you understand what I'm talking about. You understand, what should be the thinking process as an investor. Because, this market is big. So I've dropped a little bit, less than 10% of my XRP, the exact percentage and the exact assets which I've moved into is placed in my Patreon. So all the members actually know when I was moving out. Say I'll actually give another thought process. Say when you move, you're not moving out just because the project is failing. If that's the case, you're moving 100% out. For me, it's just a small percentage, below 10%, which I've moved into different assets, and that in dollar terms is not that small. But, it actually gives that leverage. If it does what it shows in the charts, you're going to see 20x, 30x, 40x in some assets. And you want to increase your risk because, XRP is low risk for me. I consider that way. So I took that chunk and put it into some of the medium risk assets. So medium risk asset kind of give you 20, 30x, fine. Risk asset shows you 40x, but may deliver you 50, 60x. You don't know. So kind of balance your portfolio in a way. You have, say, 5 to 10% of notes, 20, 30% of risky assets, depending upon your risk tolerance, obviously. And then look at, different assets, medium term risk or mid level of risk, and then higher risk, low risk. You kind of arrange all of this in a way that's fine. Meaning, your level of risk tolerance and you're balancing it in a way that you look forward to this market. When the riskier asset is pumping, you make a ton of money. And even if that fails, your portfolio won't go to zero because you have the medium risk, you have the low risk, and then you have the passive income source. So all of these putting money back into your portfolio. So the passive income, right now, if you are in a project and your bags are already packed, you don't actually have to, put that back. Because when these go up, people take profit and it go back, rotating into the node projects. So that's when they actually go up. So if you're accumulating the node project at the bottom, that's great in my opinion. Because, once the price go up, that's where you take out. You have staking option in a lot of these projects. So you take the money out, put it into the staking, you stake it 5, 6, 7, 8% a month, staking on your rewards, which is heavy because the rewards are like 30, 35% a month, and you then get 8, 10% above it. So if you know what you're doing, and if you understand what time horizon you are looking at, this is going to build wealth. Because this year, more likely we only have a year left. Because if you are looking at, say for example, you look at a BTC chart on a longer time horizon and you are like, okay, I do understand this level of risk where the market cycle may end and go down and bottom by next year, June, July. So that makes, somewhere around October, November, December would be the top of Bitcoin. So you're like, okay, within a month of that would be the top of altcoin. Now, a month or two here and there, that can still happen. But the way it looks is super bullish. Because for me, when I look at this chart, personally, I'm like, okay, that's bullish. Say if you actually go on to a Bitcoin chart on a weekly time horizon, and then you look at where the price is right now, you're like, okay, that looks bullish for me. Because say, for example, you look at the weekly moving average, you broke above that, you tried to come back down, you're still flirting with that level, but you're above that level. Now you go back down, you look at the MACD, it's about to cross to the upside. You look at the RSI, it's about to break to the upside in a falling wedge pattern, which is actually a super bullish pattern if you actually understand technicals. And then, we've talked about another stuff and now we've repeated that over and over again. So you may still be bored, but look at this. This is a double bottom pattern, which we talked about from a long time. And when you get this bounce above the moving average and you're going up, remember we've talked about this. When others were pointing you to the direction of bears, saying, okay, jump out. That doesn't happen. That doesn't actually work that way. If you understand the markets and the cycles, and if you are a fan of learning on a regular basis, you do understand there's a lot of stuff happening in the market. It's not just the crypto market. Money is coming into crypto market from all the direction. You need to understand the macroeconomics. You need to understand the geopolitical scenario and how money works and how markets and cycles work. There's a lot of different books which if you wish to, you can actually go through them. Mastering the Market Cycle is one of my favorite to understand at least where we are in the market cycle, because we don't know where we are going, but at least you can know where we are right now. That's the perspective from Howard Marks, and this is one of the reasons why we go through all of these books, gain the knowledge, discuss in the one-on-one session based on your portfolio, looking at whether that portfolio is aligned well. Now I know that keeps me so busy even during the weekends talking through all the different portfolios, but it gives me more insight about which particular asset I missed, where it is in the cycle, because you had that in your portfolio, and you get all the assets in your portfolio balanced. If one is super risky and you're heavy on that and the low risk item is kind of negligible, you need to actually balance that, right? We do that. So if you want that kind of process for your portfolio to be prepared in a way you're clear for wave 2 and you're going to make the max or some way close to the max, because we reduce the risk. So your upside reduces a bit, but you do get to take those out. Don't go into projects where you see 10x, 20x, but you're not able to take the money out. We had a lot of people having that issue in last wave, and we don't want people doing that same mistake this wave. So that's one of the heavy reasons why we look into liquidity, why we look into which exchange you are for that particular exchange, and all the connected stuffs based on TA and fundamentals. So guys, if you received value for your time, please do hit that like and subscribe button. That supports the channel a lot. And if you want these kind of process for your portfolio to make money in wave 2, you can look at the Patreon. The link is given in the description below, where you get a ton of value for your money. So guys, I'll meet you on the next video. Bye for now.